Hello. This video will show you the basics of installing and using the isCOBOL software development kit on Linux or Unix operating systems. If Java isn't installed already on your system, you'll need to install the correct package or download it from an external source, either from Oracle or an OpenJDK vendor. I'll be installing isCOBOL version 2020 R2 with the OpenJDK Java 8 that came with the Ubuntu installation on AWS that I'm using. We've supported Java 7 through Java 11 since version 2019 R1. The product setup comes gzipped and tarred. We'll go through the steps to run the installation script, make some choices, and install. We'll activate the license during the process, and we'll set up some environment variables. After installing, I'll demonstrate how to run one of our sample programs from the command line. Each sample has a README file with step-by-step instructions that we'll use. We'll run a program in the debugger, and we'll use a utility to read a file. So let's get started. So here I am in my home directory, and I've gotten the setup for my operating system, Linux 64, and I've also created a folder to install in. We'll talk about the set environment later. So the first thing to do is to unzip and untar the setup. And you can see that it created a folder called isCOBOL 2020 R2. I'm going to go into there. And it has a setup script, and I'm going to run that. And the first thing to do is to choose the products that you want to install. Now, I want the SDK and the server. The SDK consists of the compiler, the runtime, and the thin client. You can see that the compiler has a yes next to it, and it includes numbers 2 and 3. So I'm set there. The server is number 4. I want to include that. So down here, I'll type a 4. Yes. On my install path, remember I created a folder to install it into, so I want to put that in there. So that's good. The JDK install directory was picked up from the environment. I'm set there, so I just need to install. It's asking if I want to license the products. I'll say yes. So you should have gotten a license file like this. So I'll copy this and paste. And now the runtime license is this one here. Copy and paste. I'm installed. Let's look at our installation. You can see we have several folders and files. The isCOBOL.properties is our license file. The bin folder is where we have some wrappers to run the compiler and the runtime, for instance, and some utilities. And the sample we'll get into when we run a sample program. But for now, we need to set the environment. Let's go back to my home directory. And remember the set env. Let's take a look at that. And I'm setting two variables. The first one is to add the bin directory where those wrappers were to the path so that I can run those wrappers from anywhere in the system. The second one is to set isCOBOL to my root directory so that the license file can be found. So I'll run the script, and my environment is set. Now let's run a sample. We'll go into the installation and the sample folder. Now I'm going to run the I/O performance sample. The best way to run each sample is to first look at the README file and follow the instructions. So let's open up the README file. And we'll look at step 1. We've already done that. We have a command prompt window at the isCOBOL sample I/O performance. The next step is to compile, and I'll copy this command. And the last step will be an isc run to run the class. So let's compile, and we'll run the program, just like that. Now the program is done running, and as you can see, we have a few files here that have been added: indexed, line sequential, relative, and binary sequential. One of the utilities that was installed is jutil, and this will give us information about the file indexed file that was just created. And there's information about our indexed file using one of our utilities. Now I would like to run a program in the debugger. The debugger is graphical, and because this implementation of Linux that I have here is not graphical, I'll need to use the remote debugger. First step is to compile the program for debug with a -D. Now I'll start a remote debugger here on my graphical environment, which is Windows. And the command is iscrun -r-d. And I'll need the IP address or name of my server, which is this. So I'll start that, and a remote debugger session will start, and it will listen for some communication from this computer. So we'll move that off to the side. So let's start our program in debug. iscrun is the wrapper for the runtime. And now we want to pass a variable to tell the runtime to run in debug. A -J will send it to the Java runtime. A -D will send it to the isCOBOL runtime. And the variable's name is isCOBOL.runDebug equal to, and then the name of my program. And here it is running in debug. And I can step through. As it displays, you'll see the console is over here. The line that's being debugged is displayed there. I'll just step through this a little bit so you can see it, and we'll just run the program. So that's the debugging. If you were in a graphical environment, you could simply run iscrun -d io indexed. If you have any questions, please contact us at the information shown on this slide or at support@variant.com. Thank you.